Okay, so when Gabby asked me to talk about my life, um, I wasn't sure where to start. But I guess I'll start from the very beginning. I was born in 1966 in Portsmouth, Virginia. My dad and my mom, my parents, basically came here from the Philippines. How they came here, my dad was in the Navy, my mom was a doctor back in the Philippines. And because my dad was in the Navy, he was stationed in Virginia Beach. Um, and that's kind of where our life started in Virginia Beach. We grew up there, went to school there. My dad was stationed in Virginia, but constantly traveling around the world. So I didn't see much of my dad actually growing up. He'd visit, he'd be back on base and be able to visit us at home, but then he'd be off again. Um, 10 years later, I would say I was about 10 or 11. That's when they decided as a family that we should go back to the Philippines. There was the whole family. I have an older brother. His name is Kenny. Nickname is Kenny. Then it was me, and I have two sisters. Well, the one after me is Cheryl, and our youngest is Anne. So there was four siblings. Um, so yeah, all four of us siblings and my parents went back to the Philippines. And even when we were there, my dad was still in the Navy or probably the Merchant Marines at that time. So he was never around, I would say. I mean, again, he was working, he had to provide. So he spent a lot of time on ships. But every opportunity he got to, to visit us, he would. So my mom was a played a critical role in our lives, basically being both mom and dad, the disciplinarian. I finished my high school and college years in the Philippines. I went to a small high school called St. Joseph's Academy in Las Piñas, Metro Manila, Philippines. So I grew up there, finished high school there, and then I went to the University of Santo Tomas in Manila. That is also very famous. It's the oldest Catholic university in Asia. I was very proud to be an alumni of that university, and I graduated with a degree in computer science from the University of Santo Tomas. During that time, it was also a very chaotic time during my college years. That was the time when President Ninoy Aquino was assassinated, so there was a lot of uproar around that and the uprising. You might have heard the term people power that came from Filipinos basically uniting and standing up against the government that then turned over President Ferdinand Marcos and First Lady Imelda Marcos at that time. Um, and it was around that time I graduated, and I would say it didn't really affect my life that much. We weren't into politics, and so if you weren't into politics, you wouldn't basically uh, be impacted that much. Other than again all the protests and all the coup d'états that occurred during that time. That was the most impactful thing that happened to me as far as going to school and graduating and finding a job. After college, I did actually land a job at a vocational school teaching computer classes. Also, at that time, I was already DJing. I was very much into music growing up. My mom was adamant about me taking piano lessons and then the organ, and so I was at an early age, very much around music. So I started my own band in high school, and that continued on till today. I'm still in bands right now. Um, Also, I got into DJing. So I was a DJ in Manila. I played at a lot of the um, hottest clubs at the time in Manila. And I was also fortunate enough to be invited to Japan to play at a club in Japan. So I was in Japan for about 6 months DJing there before I returned back to the Philippines. And then that's where things turned. At some point, my mom at the time, and probably my father too, they were both involved in saying that my life probably wouldn't turn out for the best if I continued DJing. So they really encouraged me to pursue a career in computer science, and that's what I graduated with, the degree I graduated with, and they wanted me to pursue that career. So that's when I decided, okay, well, the best place to be in with a computer science degree and to find a career in computer science would be Silicon Valley. So then I packed my bags and decided to move to California. My brother was already in the Navy. I'm sorry, at the Air Force at that time. So I knew I could live with someone here. And I had a lot of relatives who were already here in California at that time. So I think that was 1989, 1990 is when I came here to basically pursue a career in the computer industry. But it wasn't that easy. I realized as soon as I arrived here that you just can't come in and join a high tech company. So I started from the bottom. I really wanted to just start working, making money, and of course paying rent and taking care of expenses. So I got a job at 7-Eleven. I got a job at all these odd jobs at Tower Records. I took a job at Kodak. Basically, any job that I could find that would allow me to make a living. My parents at the time decided to, of course, rightfully so, to stop, providing financial support for me at that time. So it was fine. I did all these jobs, but I was always looking to see how I could break into the computer industry. It was around that time, probably a year into that I decided to take more computer lessons. I went to De Anza College, took more programming classes, and that's where I met my first boss. He was also taking classes, I guess, pursuing, furthering his knowledge, and we just hit it off as classmates, and he invited me to join his company at the time. So that's my first break into the computer industry. I started working for him, and then things just took off from there. I probably stayed at that first company for a couple of years, and joined a few startups that didn't do too well. And I would say my biggest break was when I joined eBay in 2002 or three. I think that was probably the biggest company that at the time that I thought, I made it. I got into eBay, and I was there for about 14 years working there. As I was continuing to further my career and look for jobs in the computer industry, it was at that time that I got married. I married my high school sweetheart. We She was the younger sister of one of my classmates actually, and that's how I know her or know of her. And then I met her while I was DJing in a one of the clubs that I was at, and we just hit it off. We started talking, and again, I knew her sister, so it was a kind of an easy conversation. There was a lot of things to talk about. Um, but as time passed, obviously we moved on, and I had other relationships, and she did as well. But we reconnected again when I was here in the United States, and that's when we decided to get married. That was 1992. During that time, I probably um, joined a lot of other companies, but again, the biggest one was eBay. I felt that was a real good break for me as far as my career. And I worked there for about 14 years, I believe. Um, After that, I joined other companies like StubHub, Twitter, Apple, and now I am at Salesforce. I love working there. It's a real uh, great company that really puts their customers first and is a big company on giving back to the community. So that's what I really like about Salesforce. I've shared with Gabby pictures of events that we've had where we are um, every opportunity we get. Of course, there's work, but we always try to find time and hours where we can do something for the community, whether it's at a food bank or whether it's building bags for foster kids, um, goodie bags, and or cleaning up beaches. So we've done that. My team, we've been involved in a lot of volunteering hours over the years. So it's great. I like Salesforce because they support us and gives us the time to give back to the community. I've been there now for 5 years. I'm a director of engineering. I have two teams that work on a couple of products in the Sales Cloud organization. So one of the most proudest moments of my life is being a parent to both Kiara and Gabby. My son recently graduated from Chapman University with a degree in film directing and production. So seeing him pursue his passion and his dreams is it's just great to be a part of that, and I'm just so thankful that he again put all his effort into um, studying and perfecting that skill. So I'm so excited to see what the future holds for him. And for Gabby, who I'm just so proud of her. She recently graduated from high school and is now at De Anza. And I know she has big plans for herself, but it's also so great to see her basically following in my footsteps and just hustling. I like to see her doing her vintage clothing, her lashing. Yeah, so basically, she's just keeping busy, which I'm just really proud of her. She's a full time student and also working as much as possible, staying busy. So I'm very supportive of that as well. I'm doing everything I can to make sure that business is successful as well. Um, so plans for the future obviously is to see again our kids grow up and to hopefully have a family of their own soon. Um, so I'm already looking at what life might be without them and what retirement might look like. I recently started visiting the Philippines again, and it started unfortunately with the passing of my father, and then shortly after that, when my mom passed away. Um, it was probably about over 25 years before I actually went back to the Philippines. But when I did visit again, due to those events, I started reconnecting with family and friends back there, and realized how much I loved the country and loved the people. So my long term goal is to retire there when I can. I'm 55 years old right now, so in a few more years, and time flies. I should be able to hopefully retire, and I'd love to settle down back there. Another thing I did when I was back in the Philippines, because as I mentioned, I want to retire there. I started thinking about what businesses can I start, or what can I get involved with, um, And one thing that came up, meeting with friends there, is to put up a restaurant. And what better way to do it than have make it a restaurant with live music, since I love playing in bands and love music. So while I was there in 2019, I think it was 2018, we opened a bar and restaurant, and we named it Bottle Ground. That's Bottle Ground, not Battleground, Bottle Ground. And the motto is drop beers, not bombs. So if ever you're in Manila, look us up, Bottle Ground. It's just a small dive, but basically the food's great, and we have live bands playing there on the weekends. So I look forward to, again, the day that I get to retire and visit there, and drop into that restaurant every now and then, and play with the band and jam with the band. Um, it should be really fun.